talk about to help find, train and retain staff. So the first part, I was just going to cover off the COVID support if you're recruiting or taking on to make longer term recruitment decisions or starting, sorry. So our employment services help to recruit staff, financial and other support to take on and train new staff, help for businesses to go through change and partnerships to support business and industry. So yeah, we have a range of ways we can support employers and job seekers, and it is our priority to get more New Zealanders into a job. So one of the things that I'm really focusing on is our recruitment service. So I kind of look after work brokers that sit in service centres along with that whole income support. So we've got case managers and work brokers, and my focus is around what we can do better for employers to help them find the right staff, and hopefully they can consider some of our clients that we have on our books. That over the last 2 years, you can imagine, has changed quite considerably given COVID and the loss of jobs and things that have happened, and why some people have had to change, job choices. So I think our supply, our clients, looks a lot different in the last 2 years. And, some people have got some real talent and, having to change that focus in the of the job choice. So the brokers list vacancies. Our candidates have skills and attributes to suit all kinds of jobs. We tailor recruitment plans, free advertising, shortlisting of candidates, and arranging interviews. And I think one of the things that is a benefit there for employers is that, especially around the COVID outbreak, someone would advertise a job and could get 100 people applying for that job. And that's quite a lengthy task for an employer to have to go sift through all of that kind of information and find the right person. So one of the things that we do is that we get that information from you, and we can then we can find that person for you and then present, instead of the 100 people, put 10 people in front of you instead of all hundreds, and you have to go through it. So that's one of the things that we do. Over COVID, the ministry, initially when that first started, we had that wage subsidy. So that was something that was stood up quite quickly. And over time, that's now become more automated, but we still have leave support schemes for workers that are isolating, the $600 or the $359 of part-time, short-term absence payments, and these are for workers that are waiting on a test result, and that's a $359 one-off payment. Not sure how much of that we need to pay, so some of these obviously have died down a little bit given the changes to, waiting on COVID tests now seem a lot quicker given we've got the different tests. So support for wages and training, helping a candidate get a driver's license or forklift license, and Leah's talked about that. The driving license is a huge barrier, and the more we can do to support that space, the better off a lot of us will be in relation to getting those people in front of employers. Employers are being a bit more flexible, because there is a shortage out there, but those licenses are so important. We do a financial contribution to wages, so paid to the employer, help with the cost of pre-employment in work or short-term training, help for disability people and people with health conditions such as workplace modifications, on-the-job training, and a wage contribution as well, and ongoing advice and support to help new staff settle into the workplace. So the support that we have is flexi wage, mana and mahi, Apprenticeship Boost, which is not administered by the ministry, and skills for industry. So the flexi wage is a payment that is paid to support someone that's going into work, and it's based on what barrier or whether they're disadvantaged in the labour market. The thing with the flexi wage and the changes with COVID is that it's all New Zealanders. So this flexi wage product is not just for clients on a benefit. We can consider people changing jobs or, needing to go into another job. So it is, there is a difference there. So that could be just something that people are not aware of. The job must be at least the adult minimum wage for at least 30 hours a week and be ongoing, continuing support. So we like it that the subsidy period ends, that job would still continue. And the person, the payment is supporting maybe doing the on-the-job training. So your training requirements, if there's something that's required for that job, we can consider some training payment as well with that subsidy. So what that looks like is we can pay a person that maybe is just disadvantaged in the labour market, the $6,624 over a 24-week period. Or if there's more complex issues or longer time on the benefit, there could be the 36 payment, which is $9,936. And on top of that is the assistance that we can help with the short-term training, or if there's an NZQA qualification training that's required, we can look up to the $5,000. This is probably one of our most used products, and probably a product that has stood the test of time. We've made it quite, the two bands are quite, there's no change to that. So we had a bit more flexibility. So now it's quite, it's either that amount or another amount. So it's quite good that we get it's consistent across the whole of Auckland, what could be paid. Mana Mahi. So Mana Mahi helps you employ staff training for a long-term career through industry training. Who is it for? People of any age who need more support to get long-term and sustainable work and gain a recognised industry qualification, and employers who want to help develop those skills. The job must pay at least the adult minimum wage and be permanent, part-time or full-time work. A formal industry qualification and NZQA approved qualification level 2 or above at the apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship level, or a agreed alternative. So this is the payments that can be paid out under the Mana Mahi. And the other thing, Mana Mahi, sometimes employers are not really clear on what maybe that pathway is. So we try to help provide advice and look at pathways that sometimes are not as clear as, like, an electrical apprenticeship is probably quite standard, but there's some stuff around like asbestos and other bits and pieces that weren't quite clear what they needed. The scaffolding industry, for an example, not quite clear what that needed to look like to be an apprenticeship to meet this criteria. So there's stuff that we'll do around that as well. So there's an initial payment of these payments are paid over a period of time. So 18,400 in the first year and 9,200. I think the one thing with this Mana Mahi too is that the actual client, or the client is actually paid payments as well, $1,000 every 3 months or so, just to help support them and also to give them that incentive, I suppose, to keep going on with that apprenticeship. So Apprenticeship Boost is sort of a similar approach. It's not, like I said, it's not administered by the department, but that again is that there was designed initially in relation to people that were in apprenticeships and maybe had to move to another apprenticeship because the job might have fallen through because of COVID. So that's another apprenticeship that's only available until the 4th of August 2022. But that again has some payments of like 13,800 over the year and then 6,900 in the second year. Skills for Industry. So that's a product that we can put together. Sometimes we have a skill gap, and maybe there's something that we need to put in place so that we can address that skill gap. One of the Skills for Industry, as an example, put together something with the Restaurant Association to help sort of give people those skills in that area over a program that we ran for a couple of weeks. And that was because of the shortages when people weren't able to come into New Zealand, and there was a skill shortage over on Waiheke Island. So there was about like, how could we support that? Because a lot of the people that were working in those roles were overseas workers. So we can, it's a contract that we can discuss with an employer. What we can discuss with an employer, and you know, if there's a skill gap, and we might have already got programs that we can refer clients to, if that gets them to the mark so that they can go into that job. And clearly Leah's talked about that in one of the programs that we're running alongside the chamber. Business support, so helpful businesses going through changes or considering downsizing, reducing people's hours, relocating, closing, confidential support and advice for you and your staff. So we have a new team, a team that's been put in place to help support some of those businesses that maybe things are happening, and see what we can do before how we can support those businesses before they have to close, or if they are closing, what we can do to help support those staff to go into other roles. So yes, sort of doing that work up front, before things fall over. So supporting business and industry, local labour market information, employment trends, training programs, and leading the delivery of the connected service. So in 2 of the offices that I run, we have a connected space. It probably hasn't been used to its full potential over the COVID period, but that's linking all government, there's I think 18 government agencies that trying to just navigate people through where people can go, because we've got these lots of people doing, lots of government agencies doing things, but there's lots of places that people need to go and look, and that's not always that clear. So trying to connect that whole service so that it's a bit more formulated. We also can run employer days and all sorts of things out of those spaces. So support on the connected services, support on employment, education and training. One of the things I just wanted to share was that, like, over the COVID period, like I said, we have had, a different range of people obviously accessing our service, probably people that never thought they'd have to access MSD services. But it has given some opportunities to some people. So we had a client that came through one of our service centres that had been burnt out in the corporate world and then was made redundant due to the COVID. He really wanted to make some changes, and he wanted to go back to what he really wanted to do was metal crafts. So with limited formal training, he found it difficult to secure work in that Pacific sector coming from corporate. So he'd been on our books for a little bit since, for a bit. So the work broker was able to sort of like adjust his CV, do a few bits and pieces, and then able to refer him into a job that he got in that metal work solutions, and is now employed through them. So I suppose, there's just different ways that we can help support people into the work, a bit like what the chamber does. It's about not always being that kind of, work and income being that kind of financial. It's about like how we can support people into employment and what can we do to make that journey better. And some people, like I said, have these struggles because they've never had to physically, think, work and income, MSD, we have to go and visit them.